There is a beast in every man, and it stirs when you put a sword in his hand. So this is the Godbeast, which is pretty much the other indie game of this week after playing the wonderful super duper Guardians of the Galaxy video game edition. This really feels like a basic 3D action, polygonal, stylish action game. It's got a Godfall-like story, Koopa Tat story to it. Your father seems to be in charge of like a city of eternal night, and a Lord Druin sneaks up out of nowhere and seems to stab him in the back. So this causes all sorts of chaos. And it's an attempted takeover with the Council of the Hunt. Now, nowhere is this ever like, you see a bit of it, but like you don't really. There's no like story before this happens. You just see like bits of this action, and you don't hear about like who did what other than the Lord Druin. But you actually play as Lord Druin creeping up to your father, the protagonist. So it's kind of interesting way of doing things. So after this happens, suddenly you shift over to the protagonist, who's like an outcast vampire son who's seeking vengeance and to reclaim your throne as the ruler of the city. So it's an interesting setup. I mean, it's not like, I wouldn't say it's super cliche, but it's not super original. You start off in like a fancy Rome at night district to a park or sewer district, and that's roughly where I ended it. Apparently you get a motorcycle, I think you can call it. I never found out how you actually call it. But yeah, at first there's a lot of walking around, like there's a lot of empty space. The melee combat is okay. For all the criticism people had for Godfall and like it being grindy and straightforward, I feel like people should see like the other games out there and realize like Godfall's pretty complicated once you start to unlock the other moves as you progress. This game just has a basic clunky attack. Now admittedly it's an indie game, but anyways, there's an attack and a dodge. It feels kind of clunky and half finished, as I said. Your spear actually helps track you to the next Godbeast, which is like a boss, like a familiar. And you then hunt down their masters in sort of like a Dark Souls fashion, Shadows of Colossus kind of way, where you actually climb on the beast and attack it that way. I didn't get that far. I saw some beasts roaming, but anyways, there's apparently hidden lore and like bonus matches, but I never saw any of this. Clearly the scope of the game outweighs like the production levels, which is kind of a shame because it makes you wonder like how far this person would, how much they would have actually been able to achieve had they had the budget. But this is, to be fair, like it's one person who made this video game, so it's actually really impressive. They did the coding, graphics, sounds, everything. And it's impressive, but there's a lot of like empty wide open space in the game, so you're like constantly walking, so it kind of makes sense they gave you a motorcycle, but if you don't realize you have one, then it's going to be hard. The other thing is there's a lot more sound effects needed. When you hit an enemy and being hit, it's like pretty dull when the combat should be exciting. If you really like Dark Souls and you like the unique visuals and overall concept, I'd say give it a try. It just feels too unpolished for me. I feel like I'm not the type of person that has the patience for this game. I have the patience to sort of support different indie games. I just feel like this is so much like a lot of other games, like gameplay wise, with the hacking and slashing in a 3D environment. It just feels way too unpolished for me. Like, I was very forgiving with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game that came out in 2003. Yeah, the controls were kind of clunky, but I mean, it was, the license really sells that game, let's be honest here. And, that was a good attempt, but it had a lot of unpolished flaws as well. So this game really needs that patience for someone to enjoy, and I've seen a few reviews on Steam, and there are people out there like more forgiving of it than I am, but I feel like there's just so many games. This genre is like so popular because of like games like Assassin's Creed and God of War. So like an indie one that doesn't really hit on and excel on every level, it just falls short. It's just subpar in my opinions, unfortunately. So it goes for $14.49. It can be finished for within 3 hours. As you know, I played 30 minutes or so. I was good. I felt like, as I said, a lot of empty spaces in the game, and that was more than enough for me. It's on sale right now, $3.62 on the Steam Autumn sale. So if you want to take a gamble, the graphics look interesting to you, you know, give it a shot. But beyond its appearance, I feel like it feels like someone's final term project. You know, they're going to pass university or college, they're going to get their, you know, degree if they make a game, and it's like, okay, let's make a cool 3D game because I love Assassin's Creed. That's what it feels like. No disrespect to the developer, but it's, as I said, it feels like a end of term project. I'd give it a 6 out of 10. A lot of people were really glowing about this. I thought it was a cool concept, so I picked up the game. I just feel like it doesn't really give the returns that it should, and I think I did pay close to full price, so that was a bummer. The actual gameplay, as I said, is just way too rough and to be recommended, and it just cannot compete with like the million other titles. Like, you know, the example I'm thinking of is No More Heroes. Like, there's 3 games in that series at least, and we might be getting another one if I recall correctly. So there's so many games in this genre that, like, it's really hard for a game to come in, and unless it does everything really well, people just remember it as a game that, you know, could have been. It had potential. This game has potential in its graphics. The actual gameplay is very clunky, as I said earlier. So it's just gonna be like the game you played for a bit, and, you know, you're just gonna jump to something else, unfortunately. So, anyways, enjoy your Godbeast. It's Sunday. Enjoy your God. Bye.